I'm Wayne County Treasurer Eric Sabri. We are living through unprecedented times. As a result, the Michigan Homeowner Assistance Fund was created. This fund, administered by the state of Michigan, is designed to help homeowners cope with pandemic-related hardships, such as delinquent property taxes. Residents may apply for up to $25,000 to help cover 2019, 2020, and 2021 tax years. Previous year's taxes must be paid in full or in a payment agreement with the Treasurer's Office. Eligible homeowners must have a qualified financial hardship that occurred on or after January 21st, 2020. You must currently own and occupy your home as your primary residence and must have owned it since January 21st, 2020. To see if you qualify, please visit waynemetro.org, call 313-388-9799, or email taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
And we are here to give you a good time for the next roughly hour. Welcome to the week that was. And it was quite a week. This is, of course, the current affairs portion of the zombie corpse of Deadline Detroit, which really isn't that much of a zombie corpse anymore, because apparently Allan, who never met a rut he couldn't love, has been posting material to the site ever since it allegedly died a year ago. So
we still get 100,000 readers per month.
Per month.
Yeah.
Go figure. The miracle of Google. All right. So let's get started. I'm Nancy Derringer, who used to work for Deadline Detroit and is now, let's just go right out there. I am a Red Cross certified lifeguard, and I am not afraid to come into the water and save your ass. We also have one of our regulars, attorney Joel Sklar, who has so far refused to accept me as a therapy patient. P.S. He's also a PhD. He also has a PhD in psychology.
I don't. I have a master's in psychology.
Oh, a master's in. But are you still licensed as a therapist?
No, I haven't practiced in years.
That's okay. I don't care.
He's perfect.
But I still know how to repeat the last three words that you're going to say in question form. So
Yeah.
that's pretty much what they're.
Mother.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is.
Okay. Labor and community activist Barb Ingalls, who filled in for me during the summer months when we needed a female voice, and is welcome to come back anytime. Jim Mcfarlin, down on the bottom of the screen, who is a former Detroit News music and media critic and a frequent freelance contributor to the Metro Times and Hour Detroit. And of course, up there in the corner is our old pal, Deadline Detroit co-founder, Allan Lengel. Saeed Khan, our regular host, is traveling this week, but we hope we'll be back next week. And welcome to our audience of tens, at least live. We always
I correct that. It's
okay.
Live. It's not always a huge audience, but we do sometimes get into the over 1,000.
You should let me. You should have let me finish. That people who may watch it afterward, who may add up to hundreds more. So there we go.
Billions. I like to think of billions and billions more.
Exactly. So anyway, so hey, it was quite a week, and I think we should start out with classic office water cooler talk, which is, how about them Lions?
The Lions, baby.
Wow. We have a little video of the coach.
Oh, look, we know what kind of opponent that was. I love the fact that our guys never wavered. It was something we talked about. We knew we were going to hit some tough spots in this game against a really good opponent, and that happened, and nobody got down, nobody got frazzled, and we just hung in there. And it told the team they're built for this, and it's why we play with 3 phases. So, if one at any given time is struggling a little bit, the other two will bail them out, and that happened today. And
amazing. I mean, for those people who are not football fans, I think we need to at least tell people what happened. Yeah, me too. I
just want to say, Dan Campbell is, if God, created biblically a man, Dan Campbell's the guy.
Yeah. Time. Yes.
Yeah. It was incredible. The amazing thing is they're playing at Kansas City and Arrowhead, where the Chiefs are ridiculous in September. Mahomes has never lost an opener. Mm-hmm. And they're playing it, and Andy Reid,
and they're the Super Bowl champions.
They bailed the banner. And,
okay, one at a time. Go ahead, Joel.
So again, believe me, like, the Lions, I'm thinking this is going to be just a disappointment, a disaster, a national embarrassment, because this is the first game of the season. And much to my chagrin, Dan Campbell coached a great game.
Much to your chagrin?
I don't listen, man. I've been with this team for my entire life, and it still hurts, and I bleed.
Okay.
But in any event, he did a great job coaching. Their rookies played incredibly well. And they held on to a lead, which is not Lion-esque.
Yeah.
And so I wish my dearly departed father was here just to enjoy that moment. Manny, he would have loved it. The biggest Lions fan ever. And it just was a lot of fun. And throughout the night, my son was texting me saying, "I can't believe you won. Tell me it's not a dream." And I'm still amazed. So
there we go.
Great way to start the season. Want to know? It makes the whole week lighter. Detroit's going to be happy for a week.
Okay, there we go. Jim, go ahead. You were going to say something.
I was just going to say that we have to really understand the importance of this moment. I mean, on the night they unveiled the banner, but beyond that, I said all week that this was really a no-lose situation. They're playing with house money, the Lions were, because if they got blown out, everybody would say, yeah, well, they're the same old Lions. Of course they got blown out. Had they lost a close game, they said, oh, the Lions are better than we thought. But the fact that they won means that everybody's like, it's Lions Central Day. It's like someone said, we have parade on Woodward today.
We've won the Super Bowl. Let's just quit now.
We've won as close as we come to beating the champs.
It's interesting. One of the announcers last night was saying, and I was with a group of friends watching the game, and we were like, okay, yeah, well, the Lions were down by a touchdown or whatever, or 6 points or whatever, and we say, well, okay, they played a good game, whatever happens. And the announcer said, you know what? It's not good enough anymore that they play a good game. They've got to win the game. And they did. It was miraculous, really. I mean, all in all, the defense was great. The offense was like spotty at times. I thought the line, which they talk about, having one of the best offensive lines, the Goff didn't have a lot of time to throw, as opposed to Mahomes, who sometimes could have gotten a sandwich and come back and thrown the ball. But they still miraculously, the grit and that play when they were within there, when they faked the punt was great. And it was kind of like, hey, everybody, fuck you. We're gonna fuck with you guys.
I thought it was the dumbest coaching move ever. I mean, you're on your 21, nobody does that. And that's, I guess, the element of surprise. We did it, but it was like, what the hell? Oh my, you give the ball back, you don't get it. It's first down at the 20.
Dan Campbell does it, and he led the league last year in fake punts. So
absolutely
he
correct.
should have known something.
So it was just a ballsy move that that would have been disaster. And the fact that it succeeded and they scored a touchdown, makes him a genius.
Mm-hmm. So now, did they have any? Like I said, I didn't watch a game last night, but did they have any advantage from facing the Super Bowl champions and being underestimated by them? You said. I mean, do you think that they can pull off the Rudy act again? Essentially, are people going to be ready for it the next time?
The answer is yeah. You know what? When I was in 9th grade, I took karate, and on Friday nights I was a white belt. We had advanced white belt, and they would line us up.
The first white belt. That's like the beginning of.
But I was ready. You had to go to Windsor to compete in a tournament to get your green belt. I hadn't done that, but I was ready. And so we would fight like black belts and brown belts. And I was fighting. I can't remember if it was a black belt or brown belt, but I was so nervous because the guy before me blocked the kick and broke his finger. And then they said, you next. I was so scared shitless that I scored a point off the brown belt or black belt, and the black belt who was supervising went crazy on me. He's like, oh my God, a white belt got a point. And I feel like that was the Lions coming in there. They were the white belts against the black belts, and they fucking were so pumped that the black belt couldn't handle all that crazy energy.
I see where you're going with that.
I'm sorry, what'd you say, Jim?
I was dying to see where he was going with that. When Al said with the karate thing, but he tied it together. It's really impressive. And to your point, Nancy, they really aren't. It really isn't a Rudy story because they've been talked about the entire preseason. For Lions fans, you never get talked about in the
Yeah.
The fact that they were the opening game of the NFL season, and in every promo I've seen, there's been a Lion clip. You never saw the Lions anywhere. Every commercial I've seen leading up to this game, there's been, all the teams, the great teams in the league, and the Lions. And I go, ooh, the league believes the Lions are good. The Lions believe they're good. Dan Campbell tells them they're good every hour. And last night they went out and proved it. I think it's going to be an incredible season. I think they don't sneak up on anybody this year, but I think they can match a lot of teams.
They're America's darling team right now.
It's certainly time. I mean, it is certainly time. It's like, I think I remember hearing Stephen Henderson on his radio show saying something like, I have been a Lions fan for more than 40 years. And after, and it's just, it never gets better. They
are the Red Sox, the Red Sox nation now, where everybody realized they were talking on MSNBC. They said we had to check when they said they had only won one playoff game since 1957.
I was there.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
I'm so happy for you guys.
That was the greatest Lions moment.
1957, for the record, is the year I was born. So
wow,
that tells you how long. And I am now on Medicare. So
what's that? 35 years ago.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. So
the word long suffering doesn't begin to describe Lions fans. We have endured a lot.
Generational, man.
Mm-hmm. So their streak is now on Medicare. So
I would be happy if they stopped the season right here.
Yeah.
And be undefeated.
We've had it.
We had our fun.
We're done, right? So okay, all right. Well, let's move on a little bit. That's enough sports talk for now. As usual, because we always have a strong Jewish presence on this panel, we never ever overlook any news story with a strong Jewish angle. And I think we need to start out, but this is a legit story too. We need to start out with this Elon Musk versus the Anti-Defamation League. Musk is now threatening to sue the ADL because the ADL had the temerity to point out that since Musk took over Twitter, or which he now calls X, which is the worst. I mean, who has watched Elon Musk drive Twitter into a ditch and not thought, I will never get into a Tesla for the rest of my life? Because God knows what he's done to that thing. But anyway, the ADL pointed out correctly that Elon Musk has allowed some very bad actors who had previously been banned from Twitter back on Twitter, a lot of them being white supremacist, anti-Semitic, racist, shitheads. And they have been doing what they do, which is posting offensive content, which has been reported but stays up. And, advertisers are not stupid. They're getting the message and they're leaving Twitter. And so his ad revenues are down something like 60%. They were not that good to begin with. And now he's claiming that it's all the fault of the ADL. Go ahead, Allan. Take it away.
I mean, first of all, I was saying
it's
before,
a shanda.
It's a shanda. And believe me, the ADL can find some Jewish attorneys to defend them in court. But
pro bono.
Yes, but I'll tell you, it's the most absurd thing to threaten a lawsuit. I mean, they're entitled to their opinion on a public forum, and it's just insane. I don't see where there's any legal basis for. I mean, what do you say? They talk about torturous interference.
Tortious interference. Yeah. Right.
Tortious.
It's tortious.
It looks torturous to me, but and there's nothing there, and he can talk about all the lawsuits, and he can get all his lawyers to file stuff. It's like there's absolutely no case there, and it's just total bullshit that he's talking. So
that's what he does. Go ahead.
Right, it's Barb. The Trump playbook, though, isn't it? Is that you talk and you talk and you talk and you talk and you make accusations and you can't back them up, and it gets people either interested or to quit, and he doesn't seem to understand the difference or care about the difference.
Well, it's also like the tyranny of the billionaires. That's where we're going in this world. Is the elite are controlling, the billionaires, the money's controlling everything, and that's what it's tyranny, and that's what Trump is, a tyrant. And these guys think that because they did well in one area of their lives, they know everything, and that's just foolishness. But I think that's the kind of guy that Musk is. He thinks he's a genius, can do whatever the hell he wants, and is going to accomplish whatever he wants. And it's like, no, you're not. You're a human being. You're going to have your own failings. You're going to peter out. This thing with Twitter is probably going to fail because you completely fucked it up.
Right.
This guy thinks he's more than he is.
And like every other rich person, can I use shithead on this show?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We swear freely on this show, so don't worry.
You blame everybody else for your failures but yourself. It's not my fault that, one of the most recognizable symbols in the world, he blew it out for an X.
Yeah.
And now he can't figure out why he's losing ad revenues, why everything's going wrong. It's his fault. But he's blaming the ADL. He blamed anybody else because it couldn't be me. Everything I do is right. And that's just the arrogance is beyond belief. It scares me because
my God, it's the consequences of my actions. I mean, who thought this would happen, right?
Do any of you follow David Simon, who wrote The Wire? And
yes,
he's so funny. He quit Twitter for a while, but then when the writer's strike started, he came back on to advocate it. But in the meantime, he's been teeing off on Elon and everybody else that goes around him. It really is. It's worth tuning in to Twitter to find David Simon. It's AO Despair.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's and if you like swearing, he's a master.
Oh, he really knows how to.
But
swear.
If nothing else, it's really it's given some people some great opportunities to be pretty hilarious on social media.
Even the smaller, incredibly stupid decisions that he made early on, which don't have anything to do with white supremacy, like taking away verification. Now, verification used to be something that, prominent people could do. They could, it was an application process. I applied once and was turned down. And I think actually Deadline Detroit applied a few times and were turned down. So that was kind of like, anyway, but it was a way it was the blue check mark that you got after your username on Twitter. And it was a way to tell other people that this person, pretending to be or calling themselves Charlize Theron or David Simon or anyone else is really that person. He did away with that because he thought that was just a way for snooty, snooty celebrities to pose and posture and not protect their brand. And so then he made verification, the blue check mark, available to anybody who wanted to, who's willing to pay $8 a month for it. And so all of these dipshits started doing that. And I think I told you last week that I was on the social media team for the Jazz Festival. Well, one of the things we did all weekend long was post content and tag the various sponsors of the various, elements of the Jazz Festival. I was this close to posting a tweet or something, a tweet about, an event, an artist performing on the JP Morgan Chase stage in Campus Martius. And I realized that the JP Morgan that I was about to tag in that, JP Morgan Chase that I was about to tag in that, was somebody with 25 followers who was a conspiracy nut. I went onto their page, and I see this video about Pizzagate. And I'm like, what the hell is this shit? And then I realized it's somebody calling themselves JP Morgan Chase. And I was, oh my God, I was like, that was a close one. But that's the kind of decision that this guy has made that makes the platform less and less useful to advertisers who are, of course, paying the freight for it. The other thing I noticed is my Big Fat Greek Wedding 3, which opens this weekend, has been dumping ads on Twitter. It's like they're on like every third tweet as you scroll is one for and I knew as soon as I saw it. I looked at Adam Graham's review in today's Detroit News and he gave it a D. He said it's like one of the worst movies of the year. So there you go.
You advertise that much before the opening, you suck.
Exactly. They're not, Barbie didn't do anything like that. So anyway, all right. Well, it's a Shonda, and I think we all can agree on that one.
And can I just jump in, Nancy, for a second? Because Elon doesn't even take this seriously. He posted something the other day that said, let me see if I got here, to clear our platform's name on the matter of anti-Semitism, it looks like we have no choice but to file a defamation lawsuit against the Anti-Defamation League. Oh,
No choice.
No choice. We have no choice. But
Right.
the part says to me, he's not even taking this seriously himself. He just
right. It's like, how dare they attack Hitler?
Yeah.
Right. Right.
There's a biography of him that's going to drop, I think, in the next few days by Walter Isaacson, who has established himself as a biographer of big tech, and to the point that his name is on the cover in the exact same size and font as Elon Musk's. So there you go. But the details that are coming about that are pretty horrifying, particularly the Tesla stuff. He just sounds kind of crazy. And as I was saying before we went live, I think the world is going to have to start grappling with the fact that this guy admits to being bipolar and doesn't take medication for it, but does apparently use ketamine on a regular basis, maybe a daily basis. It's like, he was joking about smoking weed with what's his name, Joe Rogan, on that podcast a couple of years ago. Plummet or tank Tesla stock by something like 40% overnight. I mean, when your CEO is unmedicated or wrongly medicated, look at your stock profile and see how much, or your stock portfolios, and make sure that your advisor doesn't have you too deep into Tesla. But
although you know what? Tesla is really still the world leader in EVs, and all the automotive companies are going for EV. They're also now, I don't know if you saw, but they've got to deal with all the Hilton hotels, which are multiple, and all the Hamptons and all that, where they're doing electric chargers there. They're trying to dominate that market. They are so far ahead of GM and Ford. So you can't, as much as he's a jerk, he's way ahead of the game.
Thank you for providing a perfect segue then into the next topic, which we're hoping that Barbara can talk about a little bit, which is, of course, the looming strike by the UAW against at least a couple and perhaps all three of the Detroit 3 automakers, and what seems to be the impasse between what the union is asking for and what the companies are offering. And this threatens to be a long and bruising and exhausting strike. So, Barbara, you want to just kind of brief us on this? I mean, what the situation is so far?
It's pretty interesting to see what is going on with them. I think it's going to be more than the big three too, because the UAW represents Blue Cross Blue Shield workers. They represent all sorts of smaller industries across the country. They have nurses, and everybody on the shop floor of all shop floors is really tired of this giant gap between the upper echelons,
the tiers.
Well, Mary Barra versus somebody that's actually worked 25 years at GM.
So you're talking about the blue collar, white collar gap, not the
$29 million salary.
Right. The tiers really feed into it, though. I mean, the tiers are a big deal, and I think that the thing that's kind of cool about it is that most of the auto workers that you talk about, I mean, they want a raise. Everybody wants a raise. But they are concerned about what's coming up behind them. And that's a big deal. The part-time workers, the temporary workers, and the tier workers. This is a huge deal. And that's who they're going out for. I mean, I know people that have worked there for, I think Jesse's been there 8 years or something like that. And she's in the lower tier. She does the exact same amount of work. She works the forced overtime, all of that. And she's not getting shit for it. Now, while you were talking about the Lions and yay Lions, I was looking at the the proposal that Ford offered today, which is not bad.
What are they offering?
They're offering, let's see, increase in wages, 6-year grow-in period. So to get the top wage, you have to be there at least 6 years, full elimination of wage tiers. Big deal. That's a big deal. Yeah, that's a very big deal. Starting wage for temporary is up. It ain't enough. It's $20. They need to take it up quite a bit.
You can work at White Castle for 15.
You can work at the and not possibly cut off your own hand, working on it. I mean, these are still dangerous jobs. They're better than they were.
I think just in case there's anybody out there who doesn't know what we're talking about when we talk about tiers, after the bankruptcy, this was one of the strategies that the company was able to get the union to accept as a way when the automakers were coming out of bankruptcy, except for Ford. But the idea that you would have like the established union members, the veterans that would make one wage, but the people who were just coming in would make a far lower wage and not be able to reach that higher wage. It was like tier 1 and tier 2, which immediately set up, I mean, it was perhaps necessary, when they were recovering from, almost going out of business, but it immediately sets up, resentments among the labor force, and when people realize that they're never going to get to the second tier. I mean, what incentive is there to stay? What incentive is there to even do a great job if you don't? I mean, when the money is not that great in the lower tier, as Barbara just pointed out.
And the UAW made sure that passed, sold it to their members, and
as a temporary stopgap, right?
Right. And these guys just trot off and they make more money and they give each other money and they give each other bonuses. And in the meantime, what do we get? What's for me?
And they pay the UAW members, the presidents off, and they go to prison.
No, that's true. And those guys are in jail where they belong.
Right, absolutely. No, I'm saying that the crookedness sort of spilled over into. But I'm going to say that it seems a very pivotal point here because with the EV or the electrical vehicles, it's similar to like the Writers Guild right now. They've got streaming, they've got a lot of issues, new issues, and both sides have to kind of come together on it. It seems like here that there's going to be less work to do with less parts with the electrical vehicles. And some of the workers want 32-hour work weeks with the same pay. And we're really at a crossroads there. And so when that happens, sometimes it takes both sides a little while to sort of acquiesce and figure out what they can live with.
That's another thing I think that people who don't know car manufacturing need to understand, which is that an EV is a far simpler vehicle than a gas-powered one. It's basically a motor. It doesn't even really have a transmission, does it? I mean, there's no exhaust system, there's no gas tank. And the other thing, which I think Eric Starkman brought up, and back in the day for Deadline, that I haven't heard too many people even talk about, their EVs are far heavier than gas powered cars, because the batteries are huge and really heavy, which is going to mean more wear and tear on the roads. I mean, there's all kinds of issues that
it's also a danger. It's also a danger to the older vehicles that aren't as heavy. When you have a heavier vehicle crashing in, you have more safety issues there. I'm just hoping at some point they simplify the car so much that even a Jewish person can repair it on their own.
We'll never get that advanced.
You're just going to have to restart it over and over.
This thing.
No, I think the UAW they have to understand that the EV is an important thing and we need to have it, and that we figure out a way. I agree with that completely. And that's
won't there be displacement of workers? I mean, as we advance, or is that being one of the issues? Because, with
they
just don't need fewer workers to make an EV than they do.
But there's other, and that's so all those jobs need to be UAW, and that's a sticking point. And this is going to be a problem for Joe Biden,
right? Because
Joe Biden wants these people to support his campaign. He needs the Ford money, he needs the GM money, he needs all that. Yeah. And on the other hand, he needs the workers to vote for him. Absolutely. So he's going to be standing there juggling this. And I think that is a big deal. But I think realistically, I have a UAW retiree sitting on the other side of the room from me. And that's his big stick. Let's go, Bob. That's his big sticking point with it, too, is that the future, including the fixing the tiers, but it's also embracing the new technology. We have to have it. I mean, that's just how it is.
You cannot be a Luddite in this world. I mean, it's like the world is going to go on ahead of you. And, I would said last night I was at the Detroit News party. My husband is the retired autos editor of the Detroit News. And so, we talked, that was, of course, a lot of talk with his former staffers who were there was, what's going on. And he said, if they want, the union is asking for a lot of money for themselves, but, you can't pay so much that you risk making the cars so expensive that even a Tesla is cheaper than that. I mean, the breakthrough in selling EVs to the public is going to be building out the infrastructure of charging and keeping and getting the price of the lower entry level vehicles down to where they're reasonably affordable. And so far that's been kind of elusive.
Has there been any discussion of taking some of that money then off of the top?
Well,
bottom? I mean,
that's a good question. Yeah, Mary Barr is making a lot of money. So
what? It's always it's hard in a year when you're having negotiations when your boss is making $29 million in compensation and stuff like that. I'll tell you at the Washington Post, Don Graham, to his credit, would only take $400,000 a year. Then when they were really, his niece took over as the publisher. She was taking a $1.5 million bonus while offering, no raises and stuff like that. And it's not a ton of money, $1.5 million on top of your salary, but it's, when you're telling people to tighten your belt and we're going through some hard times, you don't take the bonus. It's not a good look. And so it's hard when, the top boss is making that much money and is saying, you gotta, and the companies are making a shitload of money.
Right. And aren't the automakers using the EV as kind of their excuse? They're saying that Tesla's so far ahead of us. We got so much to do. We got to revamp the whole system. So we can't give you more money now.
It's Elon again. It's true. No, that's what they're doing, but they're not buying it. And I know a lot of auto workers that have bought the Volt. They bought some of those. I mean, they understand. A lot of them understand, but it's really, it doesn't sit well, as Allan said. When they got rid of my job at the Detroit newspapers, they cut my department by 90%. Wow. One day. They came through and said, you've got until January.
Huh.
And I checked my Gannett page as I did, and I saw the bonuses that came from that department. They all made money for getting rid of us. Mm-hmm. And it made it, I mean, I was spitting mad, and even though I hated that place, right? But I just
that's not the point. That's beside the point.
You can't break up with me. I will break up with you.
You can't fire me. I quit. Right.
But it was just, it was so maddening. And I was in negotiations, once you've sat in negotiations, you see this, and it's just like, it's please accept that's who you're taking it from, the people that make the damn paper, the people that make the cars, and that's where we are. Is let's all have a little pain then. If we're going to have pain, let's all have some pain.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Is it fair to assume this will not be settled by the time the contract expires?
I think someone's going out on the 14th or 15th.
Yeah, I think in a week they're going to be walking out.
Yep.
Which means that Allan Lengel's donuts bill is going to go way up because he is such a union man. He loves to drive around and find a picket line and then hand him a couple of pizzas or a dozen donuts.
Let me get you, Alan. I'll go with you.
Yeah. Yeah, he did that the last time.
I had a magical moment during the strike once. We were standing around. I was standing around with some of the janitors who were in our union, and we were standing at a fire barrel, and there was a homeless guy who walked up, and he walked up and started warming his hands with us. And then he turned to everyone and he said, "Hey, can someone lend me $1?" And some people were like, "What the fuck? We're on strike. Get the fuck out of here." And then I gave him $1. And literally within a couple minutes, a guy pulls up in a pickup truck. He says, "Who's the picket captain?" I said, "I am." He goes, "Here's $20. Buy everyone donuts and coffee." And everyone's like, "Wow, karma."
Yeah. Yes, it was.
If I outlive you, Allan, I promise to come to your funeral and tell everybody what a mensch you were and how there was never, ever a homeless dude or anybody else on the street who asked you for $1 who didn't get one. So There you go.
Amen.
He's a
well, let's record that now. So just to make sure.
Yeah, I was gonna say by the time your family lives a long time, so this may not ever happen, but we'll see. All right, let's move on. Before we hit to the national topics, I was scrolling through the topics that actually Saeed puts together this list every week, even when he knows he's not going to be here. And I saw down here at number 7, apparently after a long engagement, rivaling even Celine Dion's in Vegas, it looks as though Warren Mayer, Jim Fouts, the Walking Dead-looking weirdo.
All true.
I don't understand that look at all.
I know that's been running the suburb just over the Macomb County line for so many years. Has finally run out of legal options. It looks as though his term is coming to an end, and I feel like, should we have a moment of silence for Jim Fouts, or should we just talk about some of our favorite Jim Fouts moments? Mine was seeing him at the auto show with a woman who was young enough to be his great granddaughter. I don't know, and I believe she was like employed by him as well, and they were there at the charity preview together. So there you go.
I have a picture of Jim, the latest picture.
Funny. Nice.
I always thought he was more like Mr. Burns in The Simpsons.
But give him credit for taking care of himself, and staying in reasonably good health. He's over 80 now, right? Isn't he?
Wow. Really?
Yeah, he is. He really is.
Great.
Yeah, well, he works at it, and he obviously is not afraid of a little hair product, and he's got the beard, and then he got the cool glasses.
He's so weird looking.
He's 81 years old.
81. All right,
and he's going to he has more appeals, doesn't he?
No, I think he's out.
No, I think he's fine. You know what the thing is?
No, he went to the Sixth Circuit. He appealed. He went to the district court, federal, lost, and I think he's kicked it upstairs to the Sixth Circuit, who's going to kick it.
Right.
Yeah.
He's not through. He's not
right.
And the people of Warren would vote for him. They vote him in.
They'll drag him out of office, and his hands grooves in the floor as he
to be elected.
I'm sorry, what?
The argument is that he doesn't have to run for office to be elected for office. What they're saying is anybody can vote for whoever the hell they want. If they put him in, they put him in. That's kind of what his argument is.
Wow. Okay.
I think overall, I mean, if you listen to some of the secret tapes that were made on him, it's frightening. I mean, he makes all these racist, very denigrating comments, I think, about women and stuff. It's really, but as a mayor, he actually made the city run pretty well. But he's when you listen to those audio tapes, it's
didn't he call a child with like Down syndrome like a mongoloid or something from it was just
from the 50s.
I mean, that is probably the language that was used when he was a young man, but you're supposed to change with the times, and I guess he didn't. So.
He is not a candidate for a Nobel Peace Prize.
No.
Okay.
And he may be past retirement age, so he might consider just everybody's got to step down eventually.
Right. Exactly. So all right, so let's move on to the man who has been dominating our discussions, our culture, our lives, our brains for years now, Donald Trump. It looks as though some of his co-defendants in this Georgia case are starting to get cold feet about standing up to this and are talking about flipping. What do we think of all of this? I mean, is it going to work?
It's interesting. They have a video of Trump when he's president saying that he thinks it should be against the law for people to flip, for prosecutors to flip people and get to higher levels. I mean,
that really sounds like a guy who spent a lot of time with Roy Cohn,
and thinking about the possibility it could happen to him.
Yeah, exactly.
I think some of these people, look, the reality gets down to any of these. They're not the mafia. It's not the omerta. They're not stand-up people. I mean, the fact that they've glommed onto Trump shows that they're not very stand-up people, and they realize he's not a loyal guy. They're not going to be loyal. They're not going to, Rudy Giuliani. He's not going to go to prison for 5 years. He's going to say, "Screw this guy. He owes me $5 million, $10 million in legal fees. screw him. I can't imagine too many of them are going to be stand-up guys unless they think individually they can slip out of it. But
no, I don't think so either. Rudy is such a pathetic character. I mean, he really. I mean, anybody who remember, and my friends in New York tell me that he is old.
Nice. You are right on time. Oh, yeah.
I know, but my friends from New York claim that he was always that guy, that the America's mayor, the guy who ran the mob out of New York City, all that has always been a false front for him, that he's and he is, after all, he's been divorced 3 times now, and every single wife that he's had, he cheated on. So, and some of those, cousin, right? And those tapes that came out of him, or I'm sorry, not the tapes, but the secretary or assistant or something who's suing him, had all these comments that this guy made, about Jewish penis size, and as opposed to, say, Italian penis size. But I mean, he's pathetic. And so, but Trump has treated him, you think, how could anybody make me feel sorry for Rudy Giuliani? He's done all this legal work for Trump, and Trump has not paid him because he said, well, you didn't win. And it's like, well, is that the standard?
He only likes winners.
I mean,
he only likes winners.
Well, but is that the standard? It's like, you don't have to pay unless you win. I mean, come on, Joel, you'd be out of business pretty quickly after that.
Well, no, you don't have to.
No, I win all the time. No.
Yeah.
That's right.
No, but seriously, it's but what's going to happen, I think, is that everybody's self-interest is going to start governing what they're going to do. Nobody wants to go to prison. Nobody wants to really be in a courtroom and being tried. So my guess is people are going to flip because their lawyer's going to say, what are you doing? I can soften your landing here significantly, but you got to cooperate. And I think people will, because look at Jenna Ellis, how pissed she is at Trump. He's not paying for anything. She's angry. My guess is there'll be others who are equally pissed at Trump, who think they've been, conned like everybody else has been conned by Trump. But people are going to flip. It's the natural progression in a criminal case with this many defendants.
Yeah, it always happens. Yes, it's true. It's ridiculous to think it wouldn't happen in this case. And now that people are seeing some of the sentences that, Enrique Tarrio, the head of the Proud Boys, just got 20 years. And
22.
Yeah, as Kwame Kilpatrick can tell you, a federal prison term is not like a state prison term. I mean, you serve that time.
And
so
you get a little trimmed off, but it's not.
It's not like
the state court.
Yeah,
it's not like the state court where Kwame on his 28-year sentence would have served 24 years.
Right. So that's not very much, but that's not very much time off. So all those guys, I mean, another guy got 18, they're not, they didn't get slaps on the wrist. I mean, those guys were, they got some serious time. And I think, even though this is a state case in Georgia, it's, I think that has to be hitting some people.
And I thought of the Florida documents case that the IT guy had just cut a deal with the prosecutor and is going to flip. And that's huge.
Yeah,
right.
Very much so.
He's huge. I think he's going to testify, that Trump wanted him to just wipe everything out. He may have information about there was a flood in one of the Trump, in Mar-a-Lago. They may have destroyed some documents or may not have, but I think that guy's going to be exceptionally helpful.
Yeah. That's the
you
reason.
Better have a bodyguard.
No
That's
kidding.
the reason that the IT guy in your office, always dresses like a bum. But he's like, you need me, it's like, I can
know everything.
I mean, to me, how frightening is it? Like down in Atlanta, they want to make sure that the jurors' names do not come out. I mean, how horrible is that you serve on a jury and then if people don't like the verdict, they're gonna, make death threats and stuff like that. This country is so. I mean. Democracy, it's just insane.
I know. I have to say, we have to give a shout out to Fani. I believe it's Fani, the prosecutor, and what's her last name? Willis. Yeah. Fani Willis in Cobb County, Georgia, who Jim Jordan is trying to meddle, and she basically told him, if people don't want to be tried for criminal activity in Cobb County, Georgia, they should not commit criminal activity in Cobb County, Georgia. So
he needs a bodyguard too.
Yeah, he's a terrible
he does
human
need a
being.
bodyguard. Exactly.
Terrible.
Jim Jordan is he's trying to threaten, intimidate. I mean, he's like a guy. He doesn't have
wrestling
money.
coach,
He's
you
not
know.
a billionaire, but he's got the power there in Washington, and he's abusing it to a great degree.
He's
limited. He's terrible.
Yeah, he's the guy in your high school who was, you know, taught gym. You know, he was a coach, but he taught gym. Yeah, he taught gym, and he was the one who always made you play dodgeball. You know, and, you know, because he thought it. Yeah, get out there! I want to see some raspberries. So,
Sklar, stop whining. What are those tears?
The bad man.
Right, exactly. So, okay. All right, what else do we have going here? We want to talk about Ken Paxton down in the People's Republic of Texas, who is of course the Attorney General, whose corruption is so thorough and absolute and far-reaching and unapologetic that his own party, Texas Republicans, have impeached him, and are essentially want to put him on an impeachment trial and remove him from office. And if that doesn't say anything right there, I don't know what does. So, anybody got anything to say about old Ken Paxton? He's of course Mr. MAGA. But it just goes to show you once again that what MAGA really stands for is not make America great again, but make attorneys get attorneys. So. But he was also the author of the lawsuit that they tried to file after the election to throw out the votes of Michigan and, you know, all the other states. Yeah, exactly. That was signed on to by some other bad actors, including the Attorney General Todd Rokita from my former home state of Indiana, and I believe also Dave Yost from my upbringing state of Ohio, and some just, you know, this is such a shameless, shameful moment in American politics. You know, if I could live to be 200, I would love to look back and see what historians end up saying about this stuff. So
how democracy died. That's what it made.
Yeah, or it certainly was threatened by some of the worst people out there.
Well, the history trial is going on right now, and what the reporters say is that his aides, his people who really backed him, they're crying on the stand.
Wait a minute, whose trial now?
Paxton.
Oh, Paxton's trial. Oh, yeah.
That they are so emotional. They don't want to turn him in, but the crimes are so obvious and so blatant that they have no choice, and they're like emotionally distressed about having the rat on him. But you know, and his attorneys are saying, "Well, you had no proof." Well, the proof was that. I mean, you know, I don't have documentation, but look at what he's done, and you know, so I mean, you're right. The fact that his own party's turned on him, his own valued assistants have to go on the witness stand and rat him out. It says a lot about where he is and where the politics are.
Mm-hmm. He had, apparently there was a developer who's a friend of his that he personally interceded on behalf of. The guy was a slumlord. And, you know, he said that, or a tax deadbeat, and it was like, we're not going to foreclose on these houses. I mean, he was just
Nate Paul.
Yeah, and then he also, this developer also employed Paxton's mistress, and Mrs. Paxton's wife, also serves in the Texas legislature. Man, Texas is a weird ass place.
Very Sopranos, you know, a little bit.
Know about him.
Okay. All right. Well, before we move on from Trump, I also believe there's a story going around. It hasn't really gotten a lot of legs. Saeed put on our list. I'm not really too into it, but that when Trump was giving this deposition on this tax or this fraud case, the most recent case against him, which is that he overvalued all of his properties in order to get a better rate on a loan that he wanted, et cetera, et cetera. And he threw Eric under the bus, supposedly. He said, well, my son Eric was in charge of the company when this was done, and you know, so let's
The dumbest Trump.
You got, the dumbest Trump, exactly. You really have to hand it to a father who will, sell out his homeliest and dumbest child. I mean, it's like holding him up as a child, when there's somebody with a gun, just no, take my baby.
Right. Yeah. Colbert's impersonation of Eric always makes me laugh. He's it's sad, but he would throw anybody under the bus. He's out to save his own ass at any cost. And it's
everyone but Ivanka.
That's what's happening, man. I mean,
not Ivanka. He won't throw
bodies, following Trump. I mean,
he calls Ivanka baby, which is like, oh my god,
I call them all baby.
Makes my skin crawl. But wasn't it Eric and Don Jr., the ones that defrauded St. Jude's Children's Hospital?
Yes, he was one of them. Yeah, he was one of them.
And cannot run a charity.
Yeah, none of the Trump children are allowed to run a charity in New York, which may be one reason that they all ran down to Florida and established residence down there, because that this is the state that welcomes every felon in America sooner or later. Do you know why that is? It's just interesting. Apparently in Florida, if you are found, civilly liable for something and your assets are seized, you're allowed to keep your house.
Right. So, that's right. OJ. I think OJ.
Yes. And so OJ went down there. All these bad actors immediately head to Florida and buy the biggest, fanciest house they can. And, but then, I'm sure when the law was passed, somebody was imagining this cinder block, old Florida hurricane-proof house. And not something on Fisher's Island or whatever.
Right. Gone in a month.
They say Eric had dyed his hair so he wouldn't be as recognizable. Here's a photo.
He is recognizable.
So.
Oh God, you guys. All right. Okay, what else do we want to talk about? Anybody have any free? We're gonna an all skate free choice here before we get to our ending segment.
Mike Rogers is back.
I'm sorry, who?
Mike Rogers.
Yes, thank you for mentioning that, because I meant to put that on the list too. Mike Rogers, finally a credible Republican, a reasonably credible Republican candidate, has emerged in the Michigan primary race for the U.S. Senate seat that is being vacated by Debbie Stabenow.
Right.
So this, of course, excited people like Nolan Finley, who hates the Trump influence on the party. And already in the first 24 hours after he announced this, he indicated that he would generally support the reproductive freedom constitutional amendment in Michigan and would not seek as a federal lawmaker to supersede it with federal legislation.
Right.
And then he also sort of said that Trump lost the 2020 election. But I don't know. Is that going to be enough?
All the Republicans, look, Peter Meyer has talked about running for Senate, who would be a viable candidate in the general election. The problem is, will Trump be the gatekeeper like he was in 2022 and Michigan Democrats benefited from it because he picked the lousiest, the craziest, the most crooked candidates in most cases. I mean, Tudor Dixon wasn't crooked, but the other ones. She had no
experience. She was
the other ones were either crazy or crooked. And so the question is, can Mike Rogers slip by there? I mean, look, Governor Kemp was able in Georgia to bypass the Trump craziness, and we've seen it here and there. But in Michigan, nobody got through the primary unless Trump said it was okay.
Yeah.
So the question is, can Mike Rogers, will he be able to override that, or will he be a victim of
Well,
Trump?
He's already said that he intends to bypass the state party, which is barely existent anymore. I mean, it's just three crazy people in Lansing yelling at each other. And so he's
box at the UPS store.
Yeah,
in Lansing. Right. That's her office.
He's going to build his own fundraising, and he's probably going to get people like Rick Snyder behind him. But you're right. I mean, if Meyer challenges him, so that's two people who say that Trump lost the election. But there's always going to be
Meyer voted
room.
for impeachment.
I'm sorry, what?
Did he? He voted
Yeah,
for
Meyer
impeachment.
voted
He did. He was deeply scarred by January 6th. His first day on the job, he ends up evacuating and under a gas mask hood or whatever they call those
Welcome.
things. I mean, yeah, exactly. After serving in Iraq, it's like, hey, back to Fallujah. Anyway, anyway, so if those two get in, those are kind of so-called reasonable Republicans, but there's still room for like a MAGA lunatic to pop in there somewhere.
Always.
And don't count out Perry Johnson. So, and he's
Tudor Dixon, maybe.
Or Tudor Dixon, exactly. So, yeah, there's all kinds of stuff there. So,
Crazy.
Anyway, so Mike Rogers, more will be revealed. That will be our segue into Allan, our
All
traditional
right,
lender.
Let me do a commercial and then we'll go into that.
I'm Wayne County Treasurer Eric Sabri. We are living through unprecedented times. As a result, the Michigan Homeowner Assistance Fund was created. This fund, administered by the state of Michigan, is designed to help homeowners cope with pandemic-related hardships, such as delinquent property taxes. Residents may apply for up to $25,000 to help cover 2019, 2020, and 2021 tax years. Previous year's taxes must be paid in full or in a payment agreement with the Treasurer's office. Eligible homeowners must have a qualified financial hardship that occurred on or after January 21st, 2020. You must currently own and occupy your home as your primary residence and must have owned it since January 21st, 2020. To see if you qualify, please visit waynemetro.org, call 313-388-9799, or email taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
All right. Now I think we are ready.
Downtown Detroit, Robert Wells, Schmuck of the Week.
Yes, of course, our Schmuck of the Week. I'm really bothered by that capitalized H on that last panel in the Wayne County commercial. We're here to help with a capital H. Just like the copy editor is, as my postcard says here, I am silently judging your grammar. So anyway,
I think I gave that to you, didn't I?
You did, because that's what I do. Anyway,
It wouldn't be silent. Shouldn't be silent.
It shouldn't be silent at all. So okay, all right. This is how we usually end the show. Everybody talks about who was the biggest schmuck of the week. Who wants to go first? Joel?
I'll go. What the hell? Peter Navarro. I think he's the biggest schmuck of the week and
yes,
life.
Found guilty.
Found
guilty of contempt of Congress.
Guilty of contempt of Congress, which everybody knew was going to happen. I guess the only witness he could have called to help him is Trump, and I guess he didn't do that. And so he was swiftly found guilty as a one-day trial. He's he's subject to a fine of $100,000. I think I don't know what the sentence is. I'm not really sure, but I'm thrilled that he got found guilty. And he is he is the personification of an asshole. And I'm just glad that he got hit.
Did you see the woman who dogged him all week with the sign standing?
Yeah, was trying to grab it. That was the best. He turned it around and she moves it back. That was wonderful.
Yeah, she's holding the sign that Trump lost or something. Him. Right, exactly.
And blowing the whistle. Every time he tried to talk, she blew a whistle. And yesterday, he came out of the courtroom and he was like, and she was dancing around. It was beautiful.
I generally think people should be allowed to open their mouths and say something stupid, but in this case, I had to say she was kind of a hero.
You know what bothers me about these cases? They get convicted and then they appeal and they're out forever. I mean, there should be. He's already been out forever. If it means anything, right at that point, they say, okay, you're 30 days and whatever, or 6 months or 2 months or whatever. Instead, it's appeal, and then hopefully, hoping that a Republican gets in office and cuts some loose. Pardons. So.
All right, Jim, how about you?
Well, I thought it was going to be me for agreeing to be on the show, but
come on, at least you had a good time. I
was intimidated, but you all have been very kind and very informative. It's been a real joy for me to be here. I hope you'll invite me back.
Absolutely, you've done a great job.
Has got to be Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver Kadarius Toney, who is hiding out right now because he dropped more balls than. Anyway, in many cases, the Chiefs might have won that game had he caught a few of the balls he dropped. So he is persona non grata in the NFL world right now because you can't lose on opening night when you're world champion.
Against the Detroit Lions.
Against the Lions.
Just
At home.
Jadarius Toney was so bad that Mahomes threw a beautiful pass, bounced off his chest. The Lions safety, this rookie from Alabama, Brian Branch, makes a one-handed interception, waltzes into the fucking end zone, changes the entire game. So, Tony's got, Darius got some issues, man. That's what got him voted out of, I think, New York, So, but that's a great call. Yeah,
working the kinks out. So, okay, that was a good one. So, Barbara?
I was going to choose Peter Navarro, but that's okay because he's.
You always have to have a backup schmuck on this show.
I know,
right?
So I'm going to go with, and it was just suggested on the feed, Louis, how do you say it, Rabales of the Spanish Soccer Federation, the president, for basically assaulting a woman who had just won his team World Cup. Right. And I think he's going to go down in a big way, and I can't wait to see it because
he ran onto the field and kissed her, like aggressively kissed her
on the lips.
Yeah,
on the lips. She couldn't go. He had her. He had her solidly.
Yeah.
Oh, you're welcome.
It was like a Spanish tradition to kiss people on the lips. If it was a guy, would you? I mean, I don't know. It's a Spanish thing. Maybe it's a cultural issue. I don't know what the hell goes on.
No, it's not.
No, and it's over. It's over. Those women have been screwed around by the Soccer Federation in Spain for a very, very long time. And the things that they've had to do to get recognition, and then they go and they just, and again, I'm not a sports person, but it was just thrilling to see them play. And that's how we think her. He demeaned her as quickly as he could.
Yeah. As someone who remembers when Brandi Chastain, when the U.S. women's won the World Cup, and Brandi Chastain apparently ripped off her shirt and, fell to her knees, exulting. And which is, I guess, is something that guys, soccer players do when that happens. But she's, of course, wearing a sports bra, which is about as sexy as a breast binder, because that's what it is.
But they are.
Yes.
To show you what the stupid shit that we worried about in the 90s, as opposed to say now, as a columnist, I used to read, the columns that were coming over the wire, and there were at least 3 or 4 by conservative women, like tutting at Brandi Chastain for like taking off her shirt and displaying her sweaty supportive sports bra, like it was some huge, exactly, this
an abomination.
Time. Exactly. So now we've come a long way. So anyway.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. So, but she still got kissed, but at least somebody's getting punished for it. So, all right, Lengel.
My schmuck of the week is former Detroit Police Chief James Craig, who has not announced. I'm assuming he wants to run for U.S. Senate. I mean, Congress would be too low for him. He shoots for the top regardless. He had a column in the Daily Caller gushing about what a great president, how great it would be to have Trump back in office. And he writes, under President Donald J. Trump, the economy was stronger and the streets were safer. In fact, the world was safer while America's southern border was being strengthened and American energy was being celebrated and utilized. It was a proud time to be an American. And he goes on to say how great it would be to have. And I can only think that he's looking at 2022 and thinking, Trump's the gatekeeper. I got to get through this guy. And hopefully that's enough, because I don't want to say the election was stolen, which he refused to do last time. But if he gushes enough about him, maybe he'll leave me alone or maybe even endorse me.
Yeah. So 2024, you mean he's looking forward to?
No, I was saying he's looking back.
Looking back
at 2022 and seeing what happened and thinking, I got, like, all the congressional members, the Republican congressional members have all endorsed Trump because they don't want him fucking with them. Yeah. And it's so sad that none of them can stand up. And here's a guy who talks in his column about being a law and order guy, how important that is. And he's backing a guy who's been indicted 4 times.
Broken every law. Fine.
Except for those fake, petition names. Right. He's very law and order, except for when he gets caught.
Yeah, well, that's a victimless crime. Joel, did you have something? Did you have your finger up, or you just?
No.
All right, okay. That's a good one. We're getting a nice mix here. We've got international, sports, all this stuff. So, all right. So that leaves me, and I'm going to go with Matt Seeley who hosted the Michigan Conservative Coalition 12-hour telethon on Gateway Pundit on the Gateway Pundit site. Speaking of the Daily Caller, the Gateway Pundit, Jim Holt or Hoft, I think this is the guy who is the Gateway Pundit, and he's widely known as the dumbest man on the internet. They hosted a 12-hour telethon to raise money for the legal defense of the Michigan fake electors. And they were directing people to that Christian fundraising site, Give, Send, Go. And they had a goal of $800,000. And so far, this is, of course, days after the telethon has ended, they have raised $136,000.
People aren't going to pay.
It's not bad, but it's, shall we say, when you see the bar, that they always put on these things where they have goal and it's only, about this, it's pretty funny. But it was, of course, a technical disaster, as often happens. A couple of Twitter accounts that I follow put up a clip of Seeley looking like a deer in headlights going, okay, we're going to have a message with, we're going to have an interview with Justice Gableman. And then you can hear sounds like it's supposed to be his ear monitor, but it's coming out live over the thing going, we don't have Justice Gableman. So it's very funny. And he kept going, people, we're all volunteers here, and we're just doing the best we can. But so anyway, it's just kind of funny. But Matt Seeley, Grosse Pointe Shores resident, and the Michigan Conservative Coalition, you are my schmucks of the week. And I guess that kind of wraps it up. We've been going on for a while. I think it was a good show. Thanks for everybody for showing up. Barbara Ingalls, Joel Sklar, Jim Mcfarlin. This is your first time, Jim?
My very first time.
Yeah.
Okay, we hope you will come back.
You did a great job.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm Nancy Derringer, and we always give the last word to
Drive home safely.
Okay.